Hello. I don't suspect we'll have many more than this, but thank you very much for coming, first of all. I think that it's look, I mean, I know we're standing between you and lunch, and which is always a challenging spot to be, but will hopefully be at least informative, if not entertaining. My name is Rana Sarkar. I'm the Canadian Consul General in Northern California and Silicon Valley, and maybe I'll speak a little bit about, what the kind of mission that we're up to here and why Canada is particularly important right now, in the kind of global configuration of things of what's taking place. And then maybe just a couple of anecdotes in terms of things that you might look at of things that you might want to be involved in. So I've been involved with, or at least sort of coming to TiE events for over 20 years, and it's been in a previous capacity I was the CEO of the Canada-India Business Council. I've been an expat in India, I've been an entrepreneur, I've been working with many of the people in the TiE ecosystem, and I really appreciate the work that TiE does globally. And I think that, if you think about where our governments and how organizations like TiE fit into the kind of global schema, particularly as governments, around the world, and some of them around here, as they start focusing inwards, we need organizations like TiE to be focusing outwards and bringing stages together like this. And so for that, I'm really appreciative for the opportunity of being here. And in terms of what we're up to, like we are, many people, I'm just going to take a quick question. How many people have been to Canada in this room? Okay, well, that's a terrific number. And how many have been to Canada in the last couple of years? That's actually a decent sized number. And I think that what's happening, there was a story about Canada that many people, particularly in the tech world, had that is a few years old. And that was, when, particularly if you think about the lineage of a lot of the investor and startup community of South Asian origin, many of them actually have an old school TiE Canada connection. And some of that is that in the 60s and 70s, when immigration started from many parts of India particularly to the West, where were they coming to? So there were a couple of companies, there were a couple of organizations that Canada, through Bell Northern Labs, through companies like that, Ontario Hydro started to hire a lot of Indian engineers, and that became the kind of pathway for a lot of Indian students and a lot of Indian, so the tech professional class started coming through organizations like that. And so, but something happened in the 1970s where they ended up going to the US. And many of them went to the US and started businesses there, like folks like Desh Pandey and others that followed that path. And so, but what had happened was, there was this impression that Canada was, not as robust an ecosystem in terms of for startups. And what I would say in the last couple of years is that that equation has reversed itself. And so part of that is what has been going on in the ecosystems here. And so if you think about, you've heard, and many of you are in your practice recognize that, you need talent, you need access to global talent, you need the circulation of global talent, you need capital, and you need an ecosystem that is robust enough that it's beyond escape velocity that allows your companies to thrive. And if you look at that first part of that equation, one of the things that Canada has, and we've got a number of what I would call, the main cities, like if you just like bring it down to the main cities that a lot of tech folks work in, from Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto, Edmonton, Calgary, what do they really have? And so I'd say they have a couple of distinguishing characteristics. One of them is that Canada, as many of you know, is one of the most diverse places in the world. It has thick ecosystems, so we are beyond escape velocity in terms of being able to get the services, the capital, all the services that you require to make, and rotational talent in order to make companies. And so we are beyond that escape velocity. So if you look at a city like Toronto, which a few years ago was half its size and is growing, had the highest skyscraper count in the Western world. recently in terms of what was being built. And so there's something very exciting in terms of just the raw growth. Second, in terms of the circulatory talent and what's taking place, we know the kind of position of folks, some here who would like to see less circulation, not more circulation. The challenges with H-1B, all of those, we see that. But yet in Canada, we've taken a different approach. We recognize that open is the coda of this next economy. That is you need to be open. And so we've created, in fact, we've gone the opposite way. We said we've created a 10-day, 2-week startup or a visa for tech companies. If you need to get talent to Canada, we can make that happen. We started concierge service for ensuring that the right types of tech talent are available. So we've gone, in terms of people, we've gone the other way. And we've also wanted to send the signal, and our Prime Minister particularly wants to signal to the world that, look, if you want to create the next platform for an open world, then come to Canada, have a look at what we've got to offer. So that's, those are two advantages. This third advantage, what I would say, is that in order to grow a global scale company from a startup perspective, you need access to an ecosystem that's anchored by great universities. We've got some of the greatest research universities that are, under the radar, that operate as anchor tenants, from the University of Toronto to McGill University to University of Alberta, that operate as these anchor tenants to their own clusters and their own ecosystems. And so that, if you look at what major companies are looking for right now and what a lot of entrepreneurs are looking for, is they need access to those forms of clusters. And in fact, from a point of policy, what we've also done is we've created a supercluster strategy where we recognize that there are going to be 4 or 5 major industries, from synthetic biology to digital clusters to looking at artificial intelligence. So there's going to be certain areas that the government will match funds that we're actually going to invest in and match private sector dollars in those areas. And as entrepreneurs and as people who are involved in those sectors, you will have access to participating in some of those plays. So we talked a little bit about people. We've talked about the infrastructure that we've put down. And the third is, I think that, from a kind of a general public policy and openness perspective, we recognize that we are on the cusp of 5 or 6 extraordinary revolutions in the world. And we are on the economics of transition. We used to be known as a place of resources, and we are increasingly being known as a place of resourcefulness in addition to those resources. And I think that if we are to make this shift, both in terms of climate, both technology, in terms of the structure of our economies, we need to make fairly important public policy decisions that involve folks like you in the tech community as entrepreneurs. We need to ensure that you're at the absolute red hot center of what we're thinking about, and which we are. And we also recognize, as many of you recognize, is that doing well also is important to be doing good while you're doing that. And the license to do the things that you all want to do and many of us want to do comes from ensuring that there's a robust middle class. People can have a future where their kids and will do better than them. We need to make sure that we're taking care of those folks who have been left behind by this transition. And that is what you will get from an undertaking from our governments. We've got an aligned 3 sets of governments to these objectives. And we hope that we could entice some of you to start a conversation with us, come up, take advantage of that circulatory effort, take advantage of the diversity that we have in place. And we'd love to see you in Canada. So thank you very much.